Good afternoon. Hopefully, my mic is working and things are okay. Yesterday, we tried to do a review of Speaker's Corner, but unfortunately, we had some technical issues. So, we're going to try again today to see if this will work. So, I had to delete the previous video for those who are wondering. Okay, so I'm going to do it in three parts because at least that way, when I run this first part, if it works okay, I can then confidently go to the two parts and finish those as well and complete the review. So this one is first part is where we see Bob of Speaker's Corner speaking to a new Muslim, not one I've seen before at Speaker's Corner at least. Or anywhere else to be honest on any video. So he looks fairly new guy. So it'd be interesting to see. I know basically it's trying to talk about the how do we put it? Way to prove whether the Islam is true based on the Quran. If the Quran is from God, it should not contain any errors, amongst other things, contradictions, what have you. So this is what Big Bob is picking up. So we'll go straight to the video and we'll start roughly at the beginning. And let's take it from there to see what Bob and this gentleman has to say. Okay, let me just share my screen. Let's see if this works.
How are you?
Sorry for the
What's your name, bro?
Nice to meet Tarek is my name. Nice
Tarek.
I'm good.
I actually know a Tarek who became a Christian here in the park.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
I'm obviously a Muslim.
Yeah. What gave it away? So as a Muslim, do you follow, is there a particular school of thought that you're in, or a denomination?
So I'll tell you a bit about me, because I'm a bit of an oddball.
Yeah.
I guess overall, I would just say Hanafi, because why not?
Yeah.
But really, truthfully, my journey to Islam purely came from reading the Quran on my own. I
Yeah.
didn't stick to any group or school.
Yeah.
So
Were you born in a Muslim family?
Not really, no.
No. Non-practicing Muslim.
My mom was Muslim, but didn't really do too much with it.
Yeah.
My dad was Christian.
Yeah.
And really, truthfully, I'd say I came to Islam when I was 15 from an atheist perspective.
Yeah.
By analyzing the Bible, Quran,
Yeah.
and so on.
Yeah.
And I'm a lot older now. So.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, what is it about? The Islamic faith that you feel is inherently superior to the Christian faith?
The main thing, clearest thing,
the
quality of the text that people say is from God.
Right. The
quality of the Quran blows the Bible out of the water, as far as I see.
Can you give any objective reasons rather than subjective? Like, what are the objective criteria by which the Quran is superior to the Bible?
So, just for context's sake, a lot of us will see different things when we look at these books because we're wired differently.
Yes,
I quite like maths and logic. I appreciate logical things. Some people like fluffy things. Yeah, me neither. For me, when I analysed it, I saw too many things that were too precise.
Yeah.
Things that you wouldn't say without being seen as a madman or like having to put something around it to make it seem more palatable.
Yeah.
That the Quran just says like outlandish things. Later on, they're all true.
Yeah.
And if you do that enough, at the very least, it can't be pointless.
Yeah. Okay. So my instant reply to that is, if the argument is that the Quran says things that are true, therefore it is true, then the Bible also says things that are true, but obviously you say therefore, but you wouldn't apply the logic that therefore it is true, even though it says true things.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to.
Let me land. Well, this is the point I was just about to make. You stole my thunder. Because
Gentlemen, might we be civil?
if we're going to say that the Quran is true because it says things that are true, and I'm willing to accept that it says things that are true, you don't need to prove that point, we must therefore assume by the reverse logic that if it says things that are objectively false, that therefore it is false. So if I could demonstrate to you a concrete example of where the Quran is actually objectively wrong, do you have the courage and the conviction of your principles to leave Islam? So that's the question, not about the Quran, about you.
I'm going to preface this by saying many have tried, including myself, to do exactly that thing.
Okay.
Whenever I find an issue with the Quran, I realize it's an issue with myself later on.
Right.
I.e. lacking context, lacking information, or just thinking about it wrong.
Yeah.
If you want to try and do the same thing, maybe we'll both be wrong together.
Yeah.
Or maybe you'll finally free me from the shackles of the devil that tell me to worship only one God.
Yeah.
And do nice things.
You understand that the devil himself believes only in one God, so there's nothing amazing about that. Like Satan believes only in one God.
Satan himself does, but he doesn't want us to.
Yeah.
That's the whole deal.
And I would also, so two things. One, I would say that the devil only believes in one God, so there's nothing amazing there. Secondly,
I think there is.
well, we maybe come on to that.
Because the devil knows the truth.
Secondly,
and knows what you should. Because he knows the truth, he wants you to believe something else.
In other words,
it's not just amazing that the bad guy does it. It's the bad guy knows the truth and wants you to believe something else.
Yes.
Which I don't.
Yes, and that is the point. And genuinely, the shackles of Satan are upon you, bro.
As far as
the shackles of Satan truly are upon you because you're not worshipping the true God. You're not worshiping.
I don't worship God.
Yes.
Sure. I don't worship.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, which is the one true God. But I think we've established an objective principle by which we can test the Quran.
Putting it in layman's terms, God is never going to be wrong ever. Men can never beat him. So if you find a point where number one, a man, i.e. you, has beaten what I think is God, therefore that thing that I'm calling God can't be God because you beat him.
Right. Agreed.
I agree.
And so but I do wanna caution against the conceit that I'm not saying you've got, but the shadow of it has appeared, which is this idea of the Quran must be true, so therefore any criticism of the Quran must be false. So
that is where I am right now.
Right.
Due to the evidence I've seen.
And I would say that's a very dangerous position because that is intellectual pride. And pride is the most stubborn of all the sins. Intellectual pride is.
Because I can see the same with you. Like,
yeah.
I'm very proud of your belief.
Yes, and if you want to destroy Christianity, I'll even tell you how to do it.
You don't want to do that.
But all I'm saying is because Christianity and Islam are not the same. So the test by which we would test the truthfulness of Islam is not the same test that we would judge Christianity by, because they're different religions. Christianity is not a.
Isn't it the same message? Worshiping one God is not what the true message is.
No, this is an Islamic characterization of Christianity.
So your religion is not to worship one God and worship him properly.
This is an Islamic characterization. No, I haven't said that.
We've agreed.
You should know. There's two things here. One is me not agreeing to your characterization is not me denying the belief in one God or the worship of one God as a part of the Christian message. Two.
So you're saying it's unfair to say yes or no to the question?
I am saying that your question is based on a characterization of Christianity, and if you're going to engage with Christianity, you have to engage with it sincerely, and you have to engage with it on its own terms.
So I like this, and I will let you continue. I'm just saying, what you're essentially saying is that the question is flawed.
Yes.
This is something I apply. Is the question, the person asking the question and the person answering the question there's two different questions. Therefore, if you say yes, it will give a wrong answer. If you say no, it will give a wrong answer. You need a better answer than a yes or no.
Yeah, it would be like me saying that the most important thing about Islam is Muhammad.
Okay.
Right. False. Exactly. So when you say that the most important thing about Christianity is the worship of one God, what you're doing is you're taking an Islamic characterization of Islam and applying it to Christianity. The most important, we do believe in one God, just like you do believe Muhammad is important. But we don't believe that the worship of one God is the most important thing, because certainly, and this is really crucial, certainly at a epistemological and existential level, right? So in terms of how we know what we know to be true and how we live our lives according to that truth. The fundamental, foundational principle of Christianity is the resurrection of Jesus. And that is the focal point of our understanding of everything else.
And of course, that's the focal point of where we deviate.
Yeah, and it is because of the resurrection that we believe that the Trinity is one God. Right? It's important.
Okay, so that's the main reason that bolsters that entire system of belief.
It's the foundation stone. Yeah, the foundation stone is the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
It must be really annoying that my book specifically says it doesn't happen.
Yeah, your book. Well, your book never even mentions the resurrection.
So
it mentions only the crucifixion.
Yeah, so what it specifically said, but just because it's actually
we're slightly getting on a tangent.
That's true.
I do want to come back. No, it's fine. I do want to remember that I'm saying that we've established an objective test to test
Sure.
if the Quran is true, even though you have already agreed and admitted that currently you're not in a disposition to necessarily judge that test fairly.
Yeah, I mean, what I would really need as like as an absolute smackdown is
A very clear error in the Quran.
Give me a Bible that beats the Quran in quality.
Right. I would say to you that what you're doing again is you're using a characterization of Christianity.
No, because God, no one can beat God. That's what we're saying.
Right.
And if I'm saying this is from God, and the cornerstone of what you believe can't beat God,
Right.
then
So here's a challenge.
there's an issue I have.
Here's a challenge for you. Maybe either jointly or next time we speak, disprove the resurrection. Because if you can't disprove the resurrection, and the resurrection is true, would you agree with me? Christianity is true and Islam is false.
If there is conclusive proof, definitely, like I can see it with my own eyes, like that, anyone can debate it.
Yeah.
Of course, you're saying that there's a definite proven thing that God, in my understanding of God, said categorically didn't happen.
Yeah.
Therefore, something is clearly wrong. Either my God is false, or
So we've established two ways to judge between the truth. We've established two ways to judge between the truth. One is to disprove the resurrection or establish the resurrection. The other is to demonstrate an objective error in the Quran that is undeniable.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, just clarify something. The Quran doesn't straight up say, this and this didn't happen. No. What it affords you is that it appears as though it happened. Not only just to the people of the time, but even now, it looks like Jesus died on the cross. He was crucified. It looks like that. So it doesn't blame you for thinking it happened.
Yeah.
However, it does the bold thing of making a weak statement in the face of a massive majority view of saying, yeah, it didn't happen though. It looks like it, but it didn't. It just leaves it there. So you have to prove that not only did it just look like it happened, but it actually happened. That's a very hard thing to do.
Right. So a couple of things. Firstly, that's not where my argument's going.
Okay.
Right? That's not the error. Though I do believe that is another error in the Quran. I do believe that is another error in the Quran.
Yeah,
but that's not the error that I was going to bring up to you. That was not the. Wait. That was not this. No. That was not the error that was. Wait. No, that was not the error that I was going to bring up. And also, again, I point out the Quran says nothing about the resurrection at all in any way. Now, but we also agree that if the resurrection is true, Islam is false. Now, here's the error, objective error, that the Quran gets absolutely wrong, and it's evidently wrong. The Quran says sperm comes between the backbone and the ribs.
Dude,
where does sperm come from?
Yeah, dude, I know this chapter.
Great. So you'll be able to talk about it.
So, sperm.
Where does sperm come from firstly? Where does sperm come from properly?
Are you talking about cells or fluid?
Right. The Quran says sperm, and the Quran says sperm, and it is talking therefore about sperm. So that's what we're talking about. So we're talking about the cells. We're talking about the cells.
So you're asserting that the Quran is talking specifically about the cells.
It says sperm.
So the semen.
Yes, which is
what it's talking about.
Yes,
which is sperm.
Yes,
because the fluid is not the cells. The fluid is not the cells.
The semen is not. Semen is not just the liquid either.
I'll give you.
It includes sperms.
I'll give you my answer.
Go on.
The cells of the sperm come from the testes.
Yeah.
That's why if anyone's a married person, they might be able to confirm this. Like certain masses don't change.
Yeah.
Right? The liquid that it travels from comes from the prostate. They meet together in a canal just between the ribs and the backbone. Then they ride out onwards.
Yeah.
The fluid that you get, that you call semen, is the mixture of these two substances and more. That's.
Whoa. What's that? I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built an app.
Impossible. Nina can't code. Interesting. Can it generate reports?
I can now.
Nice. So you're saying we can all build apps now?
It's between the ribs and the backbone.
Right. So let's go to the text. It's in Tariq. Which number is that?
I think 86. Let me get it up on my own as well. But that is my answer.
All right. The problem with your answer is it's not what the text is saying.
I'm sure you would say that.
Yeah. Let's go to it. Boom. Where is it?
So.
Hold on.
Okay,
Where is it? 86. 86, 6. Let's go there.
And then it goes to 7, 6 and 7.
Right, 1 second. Right, 86, 6 and 7. Right, that's not the passage. They've created. Right, hold on 1 second. No, yes. Right, so it says, he is created from a drop emitted. Now, you have argued, let me explain why you're wrong, and this is not what the text says. Because you have tried to argue, right, that it's talking about semen. But the Quran, yes, the fluid, but the Quran says he is created from. Now, you and I know biologically that the seminal fluid is not what impregnates the egg. It is the cell of the sperm. And so when the Quran says, let me finish, which comes from the testes, let me finish. No, I tell you, this is fine. He says he is created from a drop emitted. Now he is created, so if it is talking about the drop emitted, it is talking about the cells, the sperm, not the surrounding fluid as you are trying to suggest, because Allah doesn't create from the surrounding fluid. It's you that needs the biology lesson. The sperm is what Allah creates.
I think you're saying
let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. What when Allah creates, is he creating? Is it accurate for me to say? Is it accurate for me to say that Allah is creating from egg and sperm of man and woman? Is that accurate?
If I give you a full answer, will you give me that?
Yes, please give you a full answer. Yeah.
The first time man was created, as you know, was from clay, which he breathed life into.
Yeah.
And then that was Adam, made Eve from the ribs. Someone said, "Oh, this isn't what you're talking about, but this is
correct.
Original creation." The creation was continued in the manner that you described, from the man and the woman. The man.
That's not my question.
The woman,
how?
That is the creation of
what is the impregnation of?
The
sperm and the egg. So, so according to your exegesis, according to your tasfir, which is a word that you do know, right? According to your tasfir, I put it to you that you are forced by the words of the Quran to acknowledge that what Allah is saying when he says he is created from a drop emitted, means that Allah is talking about the sperm, because it is sperm that Allah uses to create.
What you're arguing is the Quran is almost like saying a drop of semen makes men.
No, what I am saying. No, I know what I am saying better than you do.
I'm sure you do.
Right. You are. Because, and unfortunately, this is a Muslim tactic that we get in Dawah here a lot, which is to be obtuse unnecessarily. Because
that's what you're saying.
Yes, because you know and I know that we're talking about sperms and eggs.
Yes.
Right. That's what Allah creates from.
Correct. About sperm cell, egg cell.
Correct.
And the terminology here is droplet. It doesn't say cell.
But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is how you have obfuscated on the text, because you have tried to say that the text is talking about the surrounding fluid. And that is not what the text is talking about. And the reason why we know that the text is not talking about that is because it says, from the thing that it is talking about, Allah creates. And we know what Allah uses to create, and it is sperm and egg. And we know that sperms do not come from, do not proceed from between the backbone and the ribs. So that is a factual error. Go on.
I do think, just from off the top of my head, I think there is another verse that talks about this. This is just the one that I know, which is why I went to this one.
But this is the one I wanted to talk about.
Oh, so you were speaking about the drop?
I was specifically talking.
I think there's one that mentions
yes, but you're confusing your exegesis with the words of the Quran. I am saying that your exegesis is not true to the Quran, because the Quran is talking about he created. So we're talking about the act of creation, and we know what the elements of the act of creation are: sperm and egg. And he's saying that the sperm, therefore, is proceeding from between the backbone and the ribs, and that is a factual error. And you know it is, because it comes from the testes.
I won.
Yes, it is. Your reply.
If I may.
Yes.
If you're going to be this, I don't even.
I think the word you're looking for is pedantic.
Thank you. Again, the lexicon here is brilliant. I like it. I like English, so
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost hypocritical
Go
to do this of the Quran, even though I still think you're incorrect.
Yeah.
But you can do the same with the Bible
Yeah.
far more easily and far more often. And it just, like, for example, if I were to bring up anything Leviticus, you could just dismiss it as, oh, it's metaphorical, it's not needed anymore, it's for old people. Without any text, you can just say, oh, yeah, well, of course it is. Whereas you're giving me an exact truth and you're arguing on semantics and word formation and, like, does a package of drop constitute cell? Can you use them in the same way?
Yeah.
This is what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But if I were to bring up something huge, like if something in
So you're telling me I can straighten my teeth in as little as 4 to 6 months from just £38 a month?
the Old Testament is worth your while, you can throw any reason you want out there and then just not care about it. Like, we have to defend our stance tooth and nail, word by word, second by second, whereas you're allowed to just go, yeah.
Okay. It doesn't really just go much beyond this now, because all that really the Muslim is trying to say for another 8-10 minutes is just to try and claim that, well, it's all about how you look at it. He will defend the faith, he will defend the Quran, he will look at explanations, tafsirs, commentaries to find a way to explain it. And of course, scholars, Islam, so-called scholars, will find a way to come up with it. But what Bob is saying here in Surah 86, which it clearly says that it's what is created from. So we know without any question the only two elements that are required for the creation of a human from a human couple is the sperm and egg. So it clearly, when it talks about the fluid, this is the fluid. It's talking about this substance that we would know, which is the combination of the male sperm and the woman's egg, which when fertilized by the sperm, life begins. So that, as we know, clearly is from the womb, and of course in the men's case it's from the testes. So to say it's from the backbone, between the backbone and the ribs, I think is clearly an error. The only difficulty you're going to get is Muslims will always find a way to try and explain somehow that it's not true. That's not what it's saying. Of course, you can do this kind of wording gymnastics on any verse. And so it's really down to the audience. What do you think? Do you think it really is an error? I think it most definitely is. I think Bobby's right. There are many other errors as well. Of course, saying he mentioned earlier that the Quran says that Jesus wasn't crucified. Again, where's the evidence of that? There isn't really any evidence apart from some obscure, odd individual that may have written about the event, and they're also making that claim. You will find this, but that's not going to be a strong enough case, because the overwhelming evidence, and we are talking a huge amount of evidence, that is almost unquestioned by historians, even by atheists, by Jews or whatever, that the Jesus of Nazareth was crucified. The evidence is absolutely substantial. And this is part of the challenge where Christians do take on two Muslims in Speaker's Corner. And it also becomes a very tricky situation. So never to think of it as a argument to be won, but really an argument to be factual where possible and let the audience decide. I hope you've decided, those are watching, what you think. For me, it's clear cut. This is a clear error in the Quran, even if few Muslims would agree, and that's part of the problem. Muslims will defend their Quran no matter what, and that's kind of what that guy was intimating there. He will dig his heels and just find a way. So that's where the, shall we say, lack of open honesty, intellectual dishonesty, if you like, is apparent. Because if you really wanted to test what is true, you've got to be honest with the text. The Quran and the Bible clearly disagree, even though the Quran is confirming the Bible. So there is every case to test the Quran to see it's from God. And this is one example where it clearly does not. So anyway, that's the summary of what I think took place. A good, interesting conversation. Part 2 will be coming shortly. Anyway, that's part 1. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you on part 2.